Chapter 1. Take off the mask. Stop carrying the world and start reclaiming your power. Sometimes it feels like the whole world is resting on our shoulders. It's the pressure to provide, to always be the rock, to hold it together even when cracks start to show. It's the weight of history, of generations who fought for freedoms we're still seeking, and the daily reminders that those battles aren't truly won. It's facing those subtle looks, those coded assumptions, and the constant need to prove ourselves worthy in spaces that weren't designed for us. It's the unspoken expectation to never stumble, never ask for help, and to swallow down anger and frustration with a smile. This weight, brother, it's real. It's not just a feeling, but a heavy, invisible load etched into our bodies, our minds, and our spirits. This feeling of constant pressure, this weight we were never meant to carry alone, sets the stage for how we experience everyday stress. When that deadline looms, an argument gets heated, or you face another microaggression at work, the stress feels like it's all mental. That racing mind, the knot in your stomach, the shortness of breath, it's exhausting. But here's the thing. Stress is a full-body experience, and if we don't handle it, the fallout can be devastating. Let's break down what happens when we face a perceived threat, whether it's an actual danger or an overflowing inbox. Your brain activates your ancient fight-or-flight response. Hormones like adrenaline and cortisol flood your system. Think of this as your body's emergency mode. That weight we carry, the pressure to always be strong, to face injustice with silent dignity, it's not imaginary. This stress changes us, down to the way our bodies work. But knowing that is the first step to putting some of that weight down. Sometimes it feels like the whole world is resting on our shoulders. It's the pressure to provide, to always be the rock, to hold it together even when cracks start to show. It's the weight of history, of generations who fought for freedoms we're still seeking, and the daily reminders that those battles aren't truly won. It's facing those subtle looks, those coded assumptions, and the constant need to prove ourselves worthy in spaces that weren't designed for us. It's the unspoken expectation to never stumble, never ask for help, and to swallow down anger and frustration with a smile. This weight, brother, it's real. It's not just a feeling, but a heavy, invisible load etched into our bodies, our minds, and our spirits. This feeling of constant pressure, this weight we were never meant to carry alone, sets the stage for how we experience everyday stress. When that deadline looms, an argument gets heated, or you face another microaggression at work, the stress feels like it's all mental. That racing mind, the knot in your stomach, the shortness of breath, it's exhausting. But here's the thing. Stress is a full-body experience, and if we don't handle it, the fallout can be devastating. Let's break down what happens when we face a perceived threat, whether it's an actual danger or an overflowing inbox. Your brain activates your ancient fight-or-flight response. Hormones like adrenaline and cortisol flood your system. Think of this as your body's emergency mode. Your heart pounds faster to get blood and oxygen pumping to your muscles. That burst of energy was great for our ancestors, escaping saber-toothed tigers, but not so helpful for sitting in traffic. Your breathing quickens and becomes shallower to take in more oxygen. While this might be temporarily useful, chronic shallow breathing can itself become a source of stress. Your blood sugar spikes, giving you a boost of energy. See point above about those tigers. Your digestion slows down, since your body assumes you've got more urgent things to take care of than absorbing that sandwich. Your muscles tense up, ready to take action. In the short term, all this helps you respond to a crisis. But when the stress becomes unrelenting, deadlines piling up, constantly encountering prejudice, worries that never switch off, your body stays in this high-alert state. And that's when the trouble starts. Think of your stress response system like a car alarm. It's important to have, but if it's constantly triggered, it becomes a problem. Here's just a small sample of the damage chronic stress can inflict. Heart trouble. That constantly racing heart and spiking blood pressure take a toll. Over time, stress is a major risk factor for heart disease, heart attacks, and strokes. Weakened immune system. All those stress hormones suppress your immune response, making you more susceptible to everything from colds to serious illnesses. digestive disasters, constant tummy troubles. Stress can lead to ulcers, irritable bowel syndrome, and other not-so-fun digestive issues. Sleep struggles. Racing thoughts and a body wired for alertness won't let you relax enough for a good night's sleep. Yet sleep deprivation makes us even more vulnerable to stress, a vicious cycle. Mental health decline. Long-term stress is a major contributor to anxiety, depression, and difficulty with focus and memory. Now, this might sound scary, but the goal isn't to make you panic about being stressed. That wouldn't help. It's important to realize the deep connection between the mind and body. If we constantly feel under pressure and out of control, it shows up in our health. But here's the good part. Taking steps to manage stress can make a massive difference to your overall well-being. Think of improvements in mood, less anxiety, easier to find joy and optimism, energy and focus, clearer thinking, increased productivity, physical health, a lower risk of health problems, feeling good in your body, sleep, restorative, peaceful sleep that actually makes you feel refreshed. The good news is that you're not powerless. By understanding how stress impacts you and learning skills to manage it, you can start to reclaim your health, both mentally and physically. The mask of strength. How expectations of stoicism harm mental health. We've been handed a dangerous script, the strong black man. From childhood, we're told boys don't cry, to swallow our pain, and to power through any hardship. Society praises us for being stoic, and for never showing a crack in our armor. We see it in action heroes who barely flinch, in fathers who never reveal their worries, in the silent suffering painted as dignity across generations. The message is clear: vulnerability is weakness, and emotional expression is unmanly. But here's the truth that this toxic strength hides. We're humans. We hurt, we feel fear, and we struggle sometimes. Pretending otherwise doesn't magically banish those emotions. It buries them, where they fester and slowly chip away at us from the inside. Think of emotions as an internal warning system. Anger tells us when our boundaries are crossed. Sadness allows us to process loss and connect with others for support. Anxiety sometimes flags a problem that needs addressing. Yet, if we're trained to ignore these signals and deny ourselves permission to feel, we lose connection with crucial parts of ourselves. Here's how the consequences ripple outward. Bottled up emotions take a toll. Suppressing negative emotions doesn't make them disappear. They manifest in physical ways. Think back to that stress chapter. Headaches, gut problems, heart issues, and often find unhealthy outlets like outbursts of anger, substance abuse, or isolating ourselves. Mental health crisis, untreated anxiety or depression can become overwhelming, leading to a crisis point. For black men, who are less likely to seek professional help due to stigma and a lack of culturally sensitive care, the risk of things spiraling out of control is heightened. Strained relationships. If we can't admit our needs or communicate vulnerably, true intimacy becomes impossible. Loved ones may sense that something is off, but feel shut out when we pretend everything's fine. This leads to loneliness and fuels the pressure to perform with strength 24/7. Difficulty facing challenges. When we never confront our fears or insecurities, they only grow bigger in our minds. The courage to take risks, pursue new opportunities, or ask for help when needed, those qualities are all undercut by the mask of invincibility. Passing the mask on. It's a painful cycle. Boys internalize the messages they witness and grow into men who struggle to cope healthily with emotional burdens. These patterns echo through generations, leaving a trail of unnoticed mental health struggles in their wake. Taking off that mask doesn't mean falling apart or becoming weak. True strength lies in acknowledging our full range of human emotions, both good and difficult. It's about building emotional intelligence, the ability to understand our own feelings and those of others. Here's what throwing away that mask allows: deeper self-awareness. The more we allow ourselves to truly feel, the better we understand our triggers, our strengths, and our limitations. Healthy coping. Finding productive ways to deal with hardship instead of pushing it down, whether that's journaling, exercise, therapy, or simply confiding in a trusted friend. Better connections. Allowing ourselves to be seen, flaws and all, builds richer, more authentic relationships and makes us more receptive to support. Breaking the cycle. Leading by example is how we shift harmful norms of masculinity. Showing our younger brothers, sons, and nephews that embracing the full spectrum of emotions is a sign of strength. That's a powerful legacy to leave. This journey isn't always easy. Letting go of the mask of strength takes time, practice, and perhaps the guidance of a good therapist. But brother, I promise you, it's worth it. Racial trauma, it's real. Acknowledging the impact of discrimination and microaggressions on well-being. Think of that stress response system we talked about, constantly revved up due to the everyday pressures of work and life. For us, those daily stressors aren't the whole story. Imagine how your stress response spikes every time you walk into a room and you're the only black man there, bracing yourself for those subtle glances or wondering if someone will misinterpret your actions. Imagine the way it reacts when a news story of yet another act of senseless violence against someone who looks like you hits your feed. A reminder that no matter how successful you are, your safety is not guaranteed. Or how about those coded comments at work that question your competence? Those assumptions laced with stereotypes you're constantly expected to rise above? It's that feeling of always being on guard, the steady drip of subtle blows that constantly keep the alarm bells ringing. This is racial trauma, the real psychological, emotional, and even physical scars left by experiences with racism, both blatant discrimination and the constant barrage of microaggressions. It's not about being too sensitive or playing the victim. Science shows that trauma can literally rewire the brain, making us hypervigilant to any perceived threat and keeping our stress systems on overdrive. This additional load takes a severe toll on our coping mechanisms and overall mental health. When we're told, over and over, that to be a strong black man is to never let ourselves crack under any pressure, we internalize that impossible standard. But when a big part of that pressure comes from the weight of constant prejudice and injustice, ignoring it won't magically protect us. In fact, it makes the burden so much heavier to bear. This isn't to say that black men don't experience joy, laughter, or success. We do. But denying the very real impact that racial trauma has on our lives leaves us ill-equipped to cope. Think about it. When you're already managing a baseline level of stress that many people never encounter, it's harder to bounce back from those everyday setbacks and navigate difficult emotions. That's why unaddressed racial trauma becomes a risk factor for anxiety, depression, and even physical health problems. Taking off that strong black man mask is part of healing, but it's not enough on its own. Acknowledging how constant encounters with racism impact our well-being is the first step towards finding healthier ways to process and overcome those experiences. Denying that racial trauma exists and pretending we're strong enough to bear it alone ultimately undermines our true strength and leaves us vulnerable to its lasting effects. The body remembers. Explore how childhood adversity or historical trauma lingers within us. Our bodies are incredible in their ability to carry memories, but that isn't always a good thing. Childhood experiences, especially those filled with adversity, can leave imprints on us that go far beyond what we consciously recall. A neglectful caregiver, witnessing or experiencing violence, growing up always feeling different or excluded. These early wounds can shape our stress response systems, making us more reactive to challenges as adults. That knot of anxiety that never seems to fully go away, the tendency to withdraw when conflict arises, the way certain situations trigger panic even if we can't rationally explain why. Sometimes these are lingering echoes of early experiences, but the body can hold on to trauma that goes further back than even our own lifespans. We speak of historical trauma, that inheritance of pain from ancestors who endured slavery, segregation, and systematic oppression. This kind of trauma isn't a conscious memory you can pinpoint, but rather a cellular change that might get passed down through generations. Scientists talk about epigenetics, how these traumatic experiences can literally switch certain genes on or off, impacting descendants' vulnerability to things like chronic illness or mental health struggles. This doesn't mean we're doomed to relive those cycles of pain. We can't change what happened in the past or in generations before us. But by understanding how trauma leaves its mark and acknowledging how that lingering stress influences our behaviors today, we gain a powerful tool. Noticing those unconscious patterns is the first step towards breaking free from them. The body might remember, but that doesn't mean we have to be imprisoned by that memory. Breaking the cycle. Emphasize that healing is possible and that self-care is crucial for interrupting intergenerational trauma. The impact of past trauma, be it from our childhoods or carried within us from generations past, can feel overwhelming. It's tempting to think, the damage is done, there's nothing I can do. But here's the powerful truth. Healing is possible. It's not about erasing the past or pretending those scars don't exist. It's about breaking the cycle and ensuring those patterns of pain don't dictate our future or seep into the lives of our children. And self-care is essential in this journey of healing. Think of self-care as an act of defiance. When we intentionally address our mental, emotional, and physical burdens, seeking therapy, learning coping mechanisms, nurturing our bodies, we refuse to let trauma silently steal our health and well-being. Each time we choose rest over the pressure to constantly push through or prioritize a healthy habit, we reclaim a piece of ourselves. These acts aren't a luxury, they're essential. When we take care of ourselves, we strengthen our capacity to not only survive, but truly thrive. Taking that even further, our healing has a ripple effect. When we begin to chip away at our own intergenerational trauma, we lessen the load we might unconsciously pass on. By showing our children a healthier model of manhood, where vulnerability is accepted and emotional burdens are shared, we help them become more resilient in facing their own challenges. Self-care is an investment, not just in our own present, but in the well-being of generations to come. This chapter might have brought up some heavy truths. Acknowledge that. Taking an honest look at how stress and trauma weigh on us isn't always comfortable, but it's an incredibly courageous act. The good news is that you're not stuck here. The upcoming chapters won't just leave you with a deeper understanding of the problem, they'll also provide the tools you need to move forward. We'll dive into techniques to calm that overactive stress response, explore resources for addressing racial trauma, and build everyday habits that strengthen your resilience. It might mean finally getting a good night's sleep again, finding healthier ways to navigate frustration and anger, or discovering a strength within yourself that you didn't know you had. This journey won't be easy, but you don't have to walk it alone. Turn the page, brother, and let's discover how you can not just endure, but truly thrive. Key takeaways. Key takeaways. Mental health matters. Seeking therapy or support isn't weakness, it's brave self-care. Vulnerability is power. Sharing burdens and letting others see your true self builds unbreakable bonds. Authenticity over image. Defy restrictions and be proud of your unique individuality. Challenge stereotypes. Refuse to let narrow ideas define you and support wider portrayals of black men. Questions for reflection. What does the strong black man myth mean to me? How has it shaped my choices? Am I comfortable being vulnerable with loved ones? What fears hold me back? What stereotypes have I encountered or internalized? How do they affect my self-image? How can I actively contribute to changing narratives about black men in my community?